Before we watch this video, play this game.
Go play this game. Just stop it right here. Go play the game first.
Live this life.
We're gonna ruin it for you.
Oh, we're gonna ruin it, all right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gentleman's Gaming Club. I'm Jesse Cox.
I'm Michael Santel.
And today, we're going to talk about one of the greatest games. A game that really takes you to a different place and time. A game that is more than just a game. It's an experience.
It's like if you watched Twin Peaks and said, oh, I could do it better, but then you didn't do it better.
On weed.
I think, did you play this game on weed?
I don't do drugs.
Oh, okay. What can you expect from a game like Deadly Premonition? You can expect weird save points, ghost houses in the middle of your town,
Naomi Watts.
waiting the fuck around for the timer to hit 2,300 hours, and I didn't know that you're supposed to smoke cigarettes to make the time go, so I literally left my PlayStation on while I walked my fucking dog.
But you're also the guy who didn't know you could buy weapons in Nier Automata.
I didn't know. Well, that's true as well. I also didn't buy.
Maybe you're the problem.
I
Maybe
might
it's
be
not
the
the
problem.
game.
This might be the problem.
Maybe it's not the game.
I'm the problem.
You should drink.
Thank you.
Deadly Premonition
Yeah.
might be, without a doubt, the craziest game ever conceived by man.
Yeah, it's up there. It's barely a video game.
It is an experience more than a game. And nowadays, anything can be a game.
Right.
Don't tell me that this wasn't ahead of its time.
To that point, I think there is something there.
Yeah, I know. I'm a guru of gaming.
Right. So sit back, relax, boot this baby up, and get ready as a slow animation fades in on a forest where John Voight is hanging out with Zach and Cody.
You listen to me! Do you realize how ridiculous you're being?
Deadly Premonition
Oh boy.
is an open world-ish survival horror game.
Okay, horror game is a very broad stroke.
So is survival.
Absolutely. You have to survive high gas prices.
Open world as well. Like, the whole thing is an ish. Like, open-ish, world-ish, survival-ish, horror-ish, game-ish.
It's an open world if you consider like a fish tank. It's an open world for a fish. But like, there are very clear boundaries.
Sure. How do you describe this game? How do you even talk about this game? I will simply say, this is a cult game. It's
Okay.
the reason why I wanted to do it number 2, because this is a game that is considered one of the best, worst games ever made. This is a story that is very much inspired by Twin Peaks.
Uh-huh.
But also, I'm going to wager that this story inspired a lot of other fiction since.
So many times I'm like, fuck this game. And then there's imagery in this game that I saw years later.
Right.
And you're like, oh, that's straight out of season 1 of True Detective.
Yeah, there's moments where I was like, time out. This scene is from a crime show that I just watched, except after I did the math, I was like, wait a minute. This came first?
Yeah.
Really, all the credit has to go to Swery, who is a madman.
Is that how you say it? I thought it was like a Swearinger thing. I didn't
Swearing.
know which way it went.
Yeah, Swery's just like a crazy person.
Yeah.
Who is a mad genius, who every game he makes is insane.
Okay.
Every single one. If we're playing the director's cut,
Yes. Oh, which has had improvements, quote unquote.
let me tell you, some of these improvements are wackadoo.
I can't believe that this game had worse controls at one point. I can't believe that there was
Yeah.
a version that was zoomed in even more and like tank controls.
We need to talk about how complicated the investigation missions are. The gameplay revolves around gathering evidence in the form of collecting little cards and avoiding a mysterious killer, but also trying to eat, sleep, work the citizens in town over for information. It's crazy because at the end of the day, I don't think I can really describe the basic play cycle of this game.
It's sort of like if you're playing like a Legend of Zelda game, but the game was a story that you just watched until you got to a dungeon.
Yeah.
Because they're like dungeons that you go to, but the dungeons are bad. They're awful. I hated the action parts of this game.
Yo, by the time you get to the art gallery, when the raincoat killer's chasing you, I might have 12 million deaths on record there. Everything in this, aside from the gameplay.
Yeah, the actual video game is shit, but everything around it is great.
Yeah, it's intriguing, and it keeps you playing through all the terrible stuff. And it really is like so bizarre that you can't look away.
The first time I wrote down that I don't know if I'm friends with Jesse because he made me fucking play this game. You don't make any of your other friends play these games, is when you fucking have to drive. And at first you're like, oh, cool, driving. No, driving is far, it's out of the way, it's cumbersome. The fucking sheriff goes, oh, don't speed in my town. So then the game just like caps you at 50 miles per hour.
Can I tell you, I wrote down, let's talk about driving. Cars don't work in this game the way cars work.
Nope, not at all. It feels like an RC car. It feels like you're God driving a human being in a car.
There are literally moments where you can end up on 2 wheels.
Absolutely.
You turn too hard, your car's like...
Every time a cutscene ended, I go, please just be there. Please just be there. Please just be at the location. Don't fucking make me drive there. And it only happened once. When you go to the River Falls for the first time and you're fishing all of a sudden, I was like, thank God I didn't have to drive fucking here.
Now let us never talk about the gameplay again.
Okay.
Move on to the gameplay. Terrible. We'll never talk about it again. One of the improvements is they added bookends.
The part where it says like, last week on...
No, the part with the grandpa.
Oh, yeah, I knew that the grandpa stuff was new, but I didn't... The grandpa stuff adds nothing to the story.
It does and it doesn't.
It makes me believe that none of this story is real.
Where do we... Guys...
Let's go to the cold open.
Yes. Oh my God. Cold open is 90% noises. If you aren't paying attention to the screen, all you hear is like, oh yeah. Yep. Oh.
Yeah.
Ladybug.
Yeah. The ladybug really bothered me. Their fucking hands bothered me. Like, they like jitter. The kids are jittery a lot.
Everything in this is jittery.
Everything is jittery.
The thing that made me laugh is that if you think about it, the old farmer man,
John
and 2
Voight,
kids.
yeah, and fucking Zach and Cody.
I just thought about DuckTales.
A woohoo.
I thought about, they have a red shirt, blue shirt, green shirt, flannel.
Oh no.
And I was like, Huey, Louie, Dewey, or whatever their names are.
Yeah, and then fucking rich guy on the mountain has got to be Uncle Scrooge.
Yeah, that's Uncle Scrooge. I was just like, what is going on? And they find a body tied to a tree that has been cut in almost half.
This camera slowly pulls on her arm, and then you see her breasts exposed, and I go, this is why we're playing this game. And then it cuts, it like zooms out a little bit more, and then you see this dead person in a tree, and everyone looks at it like it's the Mona Lisa.
Right? And the kids are staring at it just like, oh, ah. And the grandfather walks up and is like, what? And meanwhile, the song playing in the background. I played it like 8 times because I went online and found the song.
Oh yeah, of course you did.
I don't know what the lyrics are, but the lyrics I heard were, I hear the horse hide and seek.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this song about?
A horse, hide and seek. Yeah, it's a lot of that. It's weird. The music in this game is also all over the fucking place.
The music, here's what I'll say. Sometimes terrible. Sometimes that whistle theme.
Yeah.
And it gets stuck in your head all day.
I'm pretty sure that whistle theme is 4 notes off from being the Mario song.
It very much.
You would have just added the end note. That's the Mario song.
Maybe that's why it's so addicting, because it's in my head. I'm just like, that whistle theme. Every time I go into it, and sometimes it shows up in the most inappropriate places.
Yep.
Like you're investigating a gruesome murder. In the background, there's just whistles.
He hung her from the tree and put on her shoes.
They'll do 3 different music cues. You'll like hear something scary, you'll go to scary music, and then you'll go to that like ba 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 ba, like it's like, oh, it's a 90s sitcom, and then it'll go back to like horror music again.
Yes.
In the same fucking scene.
It's insane.
At what point in the game, like a fucking Jet Set Radio Future song's like, here we go now, bucka 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 bucka, and you're chasing a dog, and it's like, where the fuck is this gonna happen?
I hope somewhere someone has done a breakdown of the music in this game, because I need to understand why. So anyway, after this weird opening, the ladybug rockets into space.
Yeah, like a fucking shooting star.
And then, much like the feather in Forrest Gump, the ladybug goes around to scenes in town. And it's people, I assume, reacting to the murder
So distraught.
in the
so
craziest ways.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, freaking out. I thought it was supposed to be not real, but some sort of symbolism thing.
No, this is
it's
very real.
It's crazy. And then, big directed by Swery.
Hard cut to the old man
Yes.
sitting in a room with a little girl singing Amazing Grace.
And she's like, I want to hear a story. And the man's like, oh, I have a story.
It's really inappropriate.
Literally, he says, it's nostalgic and nasty. You think you can be a good girl and listen? And I was like, no, Nope.
It's yeah.
Nope.
He's a predator. Like, what are you grooming this child for?
Nope.
He tells her it's gonna be bad, and it's like
nasty.
and
I'm like,
he
nope.
doesn't want her mother to hear it because he goes, turn on the TV, but leave it low. So the people downstairs think they're watching TV as he's telling a nasty fucking story upstairs.
I was like, wait a minute. Is this the main character? Are we creeps? Are we creeps?
We're definitely creeps. I didn't know if that was the main character or someone in the town reflecting on something that happened.
I thought it had to have been the main character because he was telling the story that we then flashed to.
I
figured that was the case, but like it was just weird because then we get the line, at times we must purge things from this world because they should not exist. And I was like, what the hell?
Even if it means losing someone that you love, which I feel describes this game. This game should be purged from this fucking earth. Even if you care about it, fuck this game, Jesse. Get rid of this goddamn game.
I love this game. Immediately, backwards talking angels.
Yeah,
backwards talking angels.
And this is very reminiscent of Twin Peaks now.
Absolutely.
And
we're in full Twin Peaks mode. So these angels, they look like the two young brothers from the beginning who play a role throughout the rest of the game. But here in his mind palace, they serve as guides who offer him cryptic clues. And is it ever really explained why they're there to guide him? I think maybe it's for when it clicks in his head that these kids are supposed to be really important. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, you play as York, an FBI special agent on the hunt for the Raincoat Killer, and your search has led you to the town of Greenvale, which is, as we learned from our stay at the local motel, completely ridiculous in every possible way. It used to be a booming city.
Yeah.
Now follow me here. At its heyday, 6,000 people were told. 6,000 people!
That's not that big of a town.
A ridiculously small town still.
Yeah.
It's actually less than 1/10 of that. So we're under 600 people
Yeah.
in this town. Of 6,000-ish people, we or 600 now, we have a giant-ass art gallery.
Yep.
An amazing hospital.
Oh, state-of-the-art hospital. Everything you could want.
Literally puzzles that open doors.
Yeah. Like an amazing electronic system.
There is an old man who has a mansion and he wears the Psychomantis mask.
Absolutely.
There is...
Who just fucks with people, can totally talk, and just fucks with the town.
Yeah, never says a word. His assistant does until the very end when he's like, oh, I can talk just fine.
We're special, and someone else did too.
Besides the Milk Barn
and
the A&G Diner,
this
town has 2 bars. Both, you're in a small town, less than 600. Your 2 bars are named Galaxy of Terror and Sweary 65. And with all this framework for our story, we're introduced to our hero driving to town in his car.
Yeah.
My favorite part of this is he goes, sure, that's one way of looking at it,
but it's totally wrong.
Music. That's the opening line and introduction to this character. And then you find out that the entire time, the conversations he's having on the phone is about Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? He's talking about Tom and Jerry on the phone while looking at his computer while driving.
To be fair, I could relate to that. I did crash a 1992 Mercury Sable because I was watching Reefer Madness on my laptop.
Of course.
Because it was pre-iPods. It was like right before the iPods came out, and I really need to hear those like Kristen Bell songs.
Well, you just like your crash.
I crashed my car, and then fucking squirrels made monkey noises. I was at the bottom of a ravine.
It's true. I like how they cut to those 2 squirrels that are like, oh, they run away, and you're like, what?
When that part came, I was so excited for the game because I was like, oh, this game is going to play on my expectations of what a video game is. Things are going to make sense. I'm not going to hear the noises that I think. Nope, that was just like a one-off joke they did, and then back to fucking Crazy Town.
Yeah, he's driving down the road.
Yeah.
You almost crash into a man in a raincoat.
Yeah.
You fly off the road, and
instantly I thought this was, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I was like, oh no, you saw that killer, now he's going to come after you.
The entire time was like, if you would have just hit him, you wouldn't have to do any of this.
All of this would be fucking over.
Yeah, if he had just not swerved, this would have ended.
How do you define the demonic powers of the Raincoat Killer? Because sometimes he does physical things that are possible, but sometimes he does physically impossible things.
So the way it works, as far as I'm aware, is that
you are an expert in this field.
The red seeds give you power.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the legend, and we'll talk about this later, but the legend is that the red seeds that the killer puts in people's mouths when he kills them is that if you have someone ingest the seed and then you kill that person, you essentially become immortal.
Okay.
which I guess is how he got his powers. I don't know, just accept there's supernatural stuff going on. Anyway, you find yourself in the ravine and immediately, zombie ghosts.
What? Okay.
I think these are supposed to be...
You could choose anything, because I also thought they were a manifestation of him in his mind, like, going through, like, oh, I gotta go deeper and darker with this, and the demons of himself are coming out to, like, stop him. I wanted to know what type of demons. Were they, like, Ju-on demons? Were they fucking the ring demon?
Here's the thing. For taking place in America, it's very obvious the Japanese influence on this game. You make your way through all this.
Yeah.
And you meet Emily, who is lovely.
Well, I'm only going to refer to as Naomi Watts. She's Naomi Watts to me. She's Naomi Watts from the fucking moment she pops on screen.
But then George shows up, the sheriff of the town. I'm telling you, I wrote this down. Everyone go back, find the clips online or whatever. I think George sounds like Kevin from The Office putting on a voice.
Could you tell me why the FBI is so interested in a small-town homicide?
What are you doing now? Go. Stop worry.
Wow! A little bit like he's like a silly dude, but he's like, I'm gonna be hard
Yes.
now.
Yeah, he has this really silly voice, but it sounds like he's trying to be like the gruff guy. So you meet these two,
Yeah.
and they basically are like, okay, well, you know, get all rested up, and we will see you tomorrow at the office.
Yep.
So, oh my lord.
Polly.
Yeah, you wake up in this huge bed. You go down, have breakfast with old Polly Oxford, who, I'm going to say it, best damn motel keeper ever, period. The whistle theme plays, and it permanently gets stuck in your head. She tells you about the town, and the two of you eat across from each other at the biggest table that ever existed. It's like...
It's the scene from Batman.
Yeah,
it's exactly like that.
Exactly.
You're like, can we go somewhere else? She can't hear shit. He keeps being like, you know, do you like God? And she...
I think she literally is just like, Are you trying to hit on me?
Yeah, and he's like, no. I said, do you believe in God? Yes, I have a dog. Like, you're like, no, just listen.
And we're given a weird scene where the coffee that she pours for him, as he adds to it, it reveals FK.
Ooh.
And he's like, FK in the coffee, Zach. Which I wonder if that's going to be important. So, you're going to the police station, the sheriff's office.
First off, you leave that bullshit. You have to fucking drive there, which is awful. There's that red stupid fucking arrow in the distance.
I totally forgot. You literally leave the motel, and there's a police car with a key on the hood.
And he's like, this town has values, Zach. Values. That's what makes it different. Values.
And I'm just like, first off, hilarious looking back.
Yeah.
Second off, that's almost what I said when I saw the key on the hood. I was like, what? The cops would just leave a police car out here with the keys on the hood?
Yeah. This is also the first time I got lost in the game. I was like, oh, follow the arrow. No,
Right.
that arrow's a goddamn lie.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
Never follow it. I didn't know you could expand the mini-map. Again, I don't read instructions, so I kept having to pause it, figure out where I'm going. I had maps. I had to draw maps out like a fucking Thomas guide. My wife would clean up and be like, wait, no, what'd you do with my map? I need my map. I don't know where I'm going. I had weird fucking maps. I basically stuck to Maple, whatever that main street was, and then just sort of like would figure out everything else when it like needed to happen.
That's literally the best way to do it. So you go to the sheriff's office.
Ugh.
And when you're there,
Yeah, you meet that effeminate boy.
I don't know why. poor Thomas.
Why he keeps putting his dick out? Like he's like, oh my, he looks like he's Care Bear staring with his dick the entire time.
Poor Thomas, he makes the best damn biscuits, period.
The biscuits look good. That render of a biscuit with like whatever the honey or stuff in the middle, they look like cronuts.
York is obsessed with the food in this town. All he can think about the entire time are these damn biscuits. Meanwhile, they're trying to explain the details of the case, and York's just in his own head putting out a cigarette while they're having this conversation about big city cops and how they just don't have time for small town problems. So rude. And then it cuts to York, who's like,
This is a good biscuit.
this is a good biscuit.
These are the fucking best biscuits.
I love, it reminded me of all of those images. It's like, I wonder what he's thinking about. And then it cuts
Yeah.
That is exactly what this was. They're like, look at him. He's so caught up in his own shit. And he's just like, these are good biscuits. You go off driving and you go to the hospital.
Yeah.
At the hospital, you meet Freckly Fiona,
Oh,
who's reading a book that is literally the game.
Liar's House. She tells you the premise of the game, which again I thought was like a cool meta, like, oh, we're talking about the thing with the squirrels. Nope, just a thing.
So then you eventually go to find Usha. And Usher is a doctor who likes puzzles. He makes you solve puzzles to find him, and you find out that the red seeds were in the victim. Someone out there, this raincoat killer, is murdering people, and you're finding seeds at the scene of the crime.
Yeah.
And you, in your like power play are like, oh, I know about these. And you pull out 8,000 bags of red seeds.
Which means, have there been other red seed murders
Around the world.
Right, so this is like an international crime syndicate?
Yes,
Which
and
also
it all traces back to here.
Which also feels like Twin Peaks: The Return, where Mr. C has become like a criminal mastermind around the world.
And then you look over the body, and the first thing you say is like, tell me, Sheriff, are you a passionate man?
Yeah.
There's this naked woman laying on the table, and I'm like, where is he going with this? And eventually, he explains that her tongue wasn't cut out, it was bitten out. So literally someone kissed her and bit her tongue out.
Which is again, super creepy, and like, what a cool detail. Like, what a real great, like, horror detail.
Yes, like a gritty crime.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, this killer's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're on the hunt now. And so you're finding out little details. And as you leave the hospital.
Oh, mind you, though, to find out all of this information, while you're in the hospital during normal daylight hours, a fucking bunch of zombies show up. And again, why? Why did any of that happen?
I think it's supposed to be a representation of your mind palace looking for answers, but like also I could be 100% wrong. So the minute you are done fighting these zomboids and you're smoking your cigarette and everyone comes to meet you, right then, Psycho Mantis shows up.
Yeah, Harry Stewart.
This is your typical mysterious, wheelchair-bound, wealthy philanthropist who just so happens to live in this small town. What are his motivations? What is his interest in the case? Either way, he's definitely trying to interfere and mentions that York should be wary of the rain. When it rains, the town goes mad.
So says Mr. Stewart.
Everything Mr. Stewart says is a rhyme.
You should try this wonderful lunch. It's more than a delicious, tasty crunch. So says Mr. Stewart.
Bullshit. I think Michael does that. I think he lets Michael just fucking have fun with it. Michael is a goddamn internet troll.
I think you're absolutely right. Michael, because you never hear him talk. He whispers to Michael, and then Michael tells you the riddle. So when you go to investigate the crime scene, you know to be looking for something suspicious, and you discover a strange piece of metal that can only come from one place.
Okay, then we go to the mill.
Yeah, you go to the mill, and you have a crazy chase in the mill.
This is the hardest dungeon by far. They all get way
bad.
easier. It's really long.
Yeah.
And I had no idea all the QuickTime events. And then you have to, I will tell you, hiding in that room, though, was real nerve-wracking. I couldn't hold that R2 button hard enough. Also, I wrote down, fuck you, Jesse. It's another game where you're crab clawing the entire time. You're searching for items. You're looking for things. You're shooting your gun. You're moving away.
We should play a game that just requires one button.
Just one fucking button, please.
The whole thing's pretty insane. But at the end, you do find a clue that apparently, according to the photo that you find, the killer has an upside-down peace mark tattoo on their back. And as he comes out of the lumber mill, because he wants to make sure that the people he's working with are okay, he's like, take off your clothes, let me see your backs. And George is like, no way. The minute George is like, I ain't gonna do it, I was like, you are a suspect, mister?
Yep.
Immediately.
And he says that, he goes, everyone in this town is a suspect, even you two.
Yeah, and so Emily's like, all right. Emily takes her shirt off, and there's legit lens flare. Like
a fucking
so
Michael Bay scene all of a sudden.
So blindingly white. I don't know if they did that for the US release, but they turned up the contrast so high, it's insane. And then when you see George's back, he's all scarred up.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, what happened? He's like, we all have our secrets, isn't that right? York and Zach. And you're like, oh.
I think the reason why her contrast was turned up is to make her seem angelic. And that
you're
she
right,
was
because they keep saying all the women who are dying and all the women in this game are goddesses.
Then we go to a fun diner scene where everyone's just shooting the shit, like having a hard day at work. She eats that fucking hamburger or whatever.
Well, actually, first, before that, he's like, I need to talk to everyone in town.
Right, and they're like, town meeting tonight.
Yes, they call a town meeting. Everyone comes, all 12 of the townsfolk.
Yeah.
And you talk to them about the raincoat killer. And you go over the case, and you try to meet all the different townsfolk. It's basically the living room scene in a murder mystery where you get to talk to all the potential suspects, or at least people who might know something. Because I recognize this, I was expecting revelations, and I literally wrote down everything there was.
Yeah, you didn't know what was important and what was not. You're like, oh, maybe it's this guy, maybe it's this guy.
Yeah, so during the meeting,
there's Isaac and this guy, then there's this guy.
Thomas's sister, the bar owner, in heels shows up, and I was like, oh, because one of the things you find at the original crime scene was heels. What you learn that, like, at the crime scene, there was at least 2 people, possibly 3 there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the killer, and then Miss Stiletto or whatever you call her.
Right.
And so you're looking for someone to heals. And so when Thomas's sister shows up, you're like, oh. And then
You meet the twins' parents, who's the punk rock guy, who all he wants to do is fuck his wife because he has the old man, Jonathan Winters, watch his kids all the time so they
Yes.
can go to the fucking Bone Zone.
yes. And his wife actually is like a sweetheart.
She's like very nice.
Right, she's such a sweetheart.
Get that Midwest sex in there.
So you end up learning from Lily, the wife, that Becky, one of her employees, hasn't been at work since the murder. She apparently was Anna's best friend and the sister of the museum owner, Diane. She's like, you definitely should go check up on the two of them. And then Nick, the diner owner, is like, I don't know a damn thing. But Olivia, his wife, says that Anna was a really hard worker. And then she says this bit. Every time it rained, and apparently all shops close in this town when it rains.
Yeah.
Many shops do that around here, as you might have heard. Anyway, Anna always seemed unfocused the day after it rained.
What does that mean? This whole thing is fascinating. Like talking to all those people, learning about the town, and then realizing that there's definitely something messed up in the town. I love that kind of vibe. And so immediately afterwards, you go and have dinner, like you were saying. And this is when you have that amazing scene where you're just like, yeah, this killer he decapitated 8 women and then used their skulls to drink out of, but he'd also pee in the skulls. You know what's really upsetting? He'd pee and drink out of the same skulls. And everyone's like trying to eat, like, what? It was a great scene.
And York just loves eating, so he's just like, mum.
You return to your room after a long day, and then you write down your progress.
Right.
And this is when you go through the whole thing of like, all right, so what do we know about this murder, Zach? And you learn about all the different things you did that day. You wake up the next day, and you meet outside your door Forrest Kaysen.
Ugh.
The happiest, jolliest, silliest man who ever lived. Him and his dog, Willie.
He gives you a plant at one point, and then produces a fucking other magic plant out
Pulls
of
the plant from
nowhere.
off screen. He comes in and he's just like, oh, I sell these plants all over the countryside, but I gotta keep coming back here because this is where they grow. Immediately you notice that he keeps saying like, I'm the only one who can grow these plants. It requires a very special technique, and I'm the only one able to, so like, you know, this is very special. Take this plant. It's from me. The minute FK was in the coffee to the minute you meet this guy and he's like, yes, my name is Forrest Kaysen or whatever.
Yeah.
They don't even give you a chance to try and associate that. It's done for you in the scene. The minute all that clicked with me in that scene, I was like, shut up.
Yeah.
And from that point on, like, he's supposed to be your trusted buddy through this game. And every scene he was in, I was like, this son of a bitch. I know it was you. I just can't prove it yet. You next go to the art gallery, and there you meet Diana.
Oh, you're right, because then I have the tree puzzle, and you
Yeah.
The puzzles in this game aren't really puzzles. They're just sort of
really.
like, read 2 things and then do them.
Yeah. And so Diana's alibi, she says, oh, well, I was out drinking with a man because I like stealing men. And then she straight up is just like, I love to sleep with men, and I sleep with whoever I want. Do you want to sleep with me? And you're like, wait, what? And your guy literally goes, you are exactly who I shouldn't be sleeping with. And I was like,
yeah. He gets it. He gets it.
yes, she so very quickly was like, do you want to sleep with me? I was like, my dude, run.
The fucking walking in that hallway sound effect is awful. It's so bad and it's so loud. It makes no sense.
Speaking of sound effects, it sounds like a horse clopping while churning butter.
That was the same thing here. It sounded like chopping woods in like an alternate universe or something. It's so loud and out of place.
Can you do like a horse like and then the background was like
Yeah, it sounded like someone was jerking off and turning butter at the same time.
Yes, it's such a bizarre combination of sounds that do not exist anywhere. So after all that nonsense, you learn from Diane that she's been sleeping with Nick from the diner, and you go there to confront him and figure out what else he's been hiding.
Don't walk into my sanctum right now. This is my area.
He's
You
like,
gotta
I'm cooking,
wait.
bro. Come back later. And so you go and you have lunch with Emily, and it's a delightful scene.
A really great scene.
So you order a sandwich that is the craziest looking thing I've ever seen in my life.
The Sinner's Sandwich, Jesse, I believe is what it's called.
It does seem like a sin to eat this thing because it's recommended by Psycho Mantis's live-in manservant.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird sandwich.
Then you eat it and you're like, oh!
And this is the first time I thought that guy wasn't bad anymore.
Sure.
Because it's such a wacky, like at no point is Darth Vader like, Luke, try gummy bears. Like, you're like, oh, this is like a very human thing of you.
Darth Vader has a sweet
Yeah, I
tooth.
guess so. No, and that part I was like, what's actually going on here?
Yeah, it's like a weird scene, but you get backstory on both you and Emily.
His wife goes, hey, I'm working right now. Come back at 9 o'clock.
Yes.
Which is way too early for a diner to close.
I guess maybe that's when she has her break. I don't know.
guess. This is when I didn't know that you could fucking smoke to pass the time.
Right.
So I slept in that fucking barn and
then
then had
went back?
No, I had an hour to kill. I took the dog for a walk and just left my game on. I didn't know what to do, but I needed the fucking time to pass.
You gotta read instructions.
I gotta read instructions, Jesse. This is the second time
You
it's
gotta
fucked
read
me.
instructions. So you go back, you talk to her, and she literally is just like, Nick has been hanging out with Diane a lot.
A lot.
And she says, again, this is like a really creepy line of dialogue that will be so good in a TV show or movie, where she's like, I followed them. They went to the art gallery, and before they walked into the art gallery, Diane turned around, and I swear she stared directly at me like she knew she saw me in the dark and knew that I was there, and she was like, and then closed the door, and I was like, yo, that would be a crazy scene. And that's like a weird detail, right? I love that. But before you can inquire further, over the comms, something's happening at Becky's house. When you find her, she is cut up, chained up, and somehow still alive in her bathtub. And there's like water running and blood's going down the drain. And I thought that like cinematography-wise, when you turn off the water and the blood like sort of goes down the drain, it looks crazy awesome. And so acting as quickly as they can to try and save her life, what ends up happening is you, the sheriff, the whole team actually kill her because there's a crazy rope trap thing. I don't know that it's explained, but it's cool looking. And so ropes like latch around her neck and strangle her to death.
It's crazy. I thought her head was going to pop off.
So
I was like,
so did I.
And again, this is one of those things where like we shit on so many things in the game, but then shit like this happens like, oh, this is like a 7. This is out of the movie 7.
Yeah.
This is very dark and well thought out.
And then as she's brutally murdered, you see her spirit reaching out to Anna's spirit. And they're both in like red dresses now.
But they're also happy and like she gets to join her. This is also where we also get the letter where we find Becky's letter, which spills a lot of the beats. It catches
Absolutely.
up a lot of it.
Yeah, you learn from all of this in your update that Diane and Nick go out drinking all the time, but they were out when Anna died.
Yeah.
And Olivia says that Nick and Diane were at the gallery. She can spot them there. So you're like, okay, they couldn't have killed Anna. Nick was nowhere to be found when Becky died.
Mm-hmm.
And Miss Stiletto was Becky.
Right.
And so you like put all those pieces together. Then you're like, okay, we need to go back and investigate Diane and Nick. You immediately get to the art gallery. Nick is knocked out on the floor. Diane is hanging from the ceiling, knife in her. An insane scene. She's hanging above the spiked tree.
With the same wire that we saw what's-her-name in the bathroom have.
Yes.
York goes to the top and goes...
And jumps across to save her.
He goes, George, catch us!
You managed to get caught by George. Diane's fine. But then in the craziest thing I've ever seen, she stands up and with no tongue, apparently bitten out just like Anna's murder, gives an art gallery like demo and explanation of the piece that almost killed her. And you're like, what happened to her?
Yeah, and as she's saying this, the red seas are pouring out of her mouth.
Oh, she's like bleeding out of her mouth. Like, it's crazy.
Women will want to fuck this statue. This is the statue that's the
Literally,
most
she's
sexy.
like, all the sharp points, you want them inside of you. Like, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And then Nick gets up, and George is like, you're under arrest. And through sheer misfortune, the sculpture falls over, crushes
It
Diane.
was supposed to fall on Emily, but you save Emily and it kills her.
Right, yeah. And then Willie shows up.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what is Willie doing here?
Also, follow the fucking blood. Like, the dog is there, but you just follow the blood trails until you find the room where you move the one bookshelf.
Yeah, and you hear FK down below.
Well, hi there, boys.
He's like, what's going on? I was just trapped down here. Like, what are you doing here? And he's like, okay, I'll admit it. Look, my wife and I are going through a divorce, and every time I come to this town, I bone down.
This is all lies, too, right? Like, all of this is just, at the end of it, all of it's fucking lies.
I think it's like a half-truth. I think he goes to this town and definitely has sex with everyone in this town. He basically says, like, yeah, I'm here because I was going to have sex with Diane, and then Nick showed up, and so she hid me under here.
Yeah, in a fucking bomb shelter bunker.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
And immediately again, I'm just like,
okay,
I don't like this. So at this point, you're off to find some of the few remaining people associated with this case, and you talk to Carol at the bar, and she's like, sorry, I can't talk with you right now. I've got to go lounge sing.
I have things to do now.
And then she goes sings a song that's like, has 3 lyrics. The song has 3 lyrics, and then becomes like... For the rest of this game, that song keeps playing. It's like, springtime with blah, blah, blah.
And I thought it was going to be the song from the beginning of the game. No, this is just another bad song.
Just another song.
Just an awful fucking song.
So then you go and have a drink and conversation with the sheriff because he wants to settle the differences between the two of you and actually solve this case.
And George is like, you know what? You're right. I can't believe I questioned you. I'm just going to start following your lead. I agree. I may be too close to this. What do we do next, boss?
Emily shows up to the bar.
Yeah.
And she is
looking
dressed,
like a hot
great.
mama.
And you know what? I absolutely know that this scene is based off of all those sheriff shows, or all those police shows. Was always the tough, like, female police officer, detective, whatever. And then there's that one episode where she goes out and she looks incredible.
Incredible. She's the hottest woman in town if she just put her hair down.
Who's your mom?
She shows up, and George is like, I gotta go. And he pieces out, and that's when you learn that, okay, George has a thing for Emily.
Yep.
And now that you're in town and Emily definitely has a thing for you, it's not cool with him.
I didn't like George. I thought there was a bug up his ass the whole time, but then he grows on you in the game.
Yeah, George is kind of a dick the entire time, but by the time you go with him to the bar...
Yes, and I always did those missions. It's like, do you want to go? No, I want to know more.
Absolutely. And it's really messed up when you have the reveal, because immediately you as the player are like, I'm going to hook York up with Emily. This is going to happen.
Absolutely.
The two of them are too perfect for each other, but it's very obvious something's up with George. And when Emily reveals, like, when I first moved to this town, George asked me out, and she's like, the age difference wasn't the problem, but, like, you know, whatever, I didn't want to date him. And it's like, wait, what?
George looks 75 and like a fucking Vietnam veteran. He looks crazy compared to her.
She seems very young comparative to George. And if you then track back to when she first moved there, I think she said that she was, like, in high school?
Yeah, which means, like, there's 4 years difference between them at most. Like, that's the most, right? She's a freshman, he's a senior or something like that. Even that's creepy.
But I thought he was supposed to be, like, in his mid-20s then.
Maybe. No, he's got to be, like, 42. He looks so old, and he's so fucking beat up.
Like, I just don't know. I don't know the ages of anyone, but it's just like a weird, bizarre thing to find out that George definitely wanted to bone down with Emily, but then it's not really. And so you sit there and you have like a nice conversation about your past, about her past, and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna leave. So you go back to the hotel and do the whole overnight progress thing, trying to figure out more clues about the murder, and then knock on the door. Emily shows up, and I was like, yo, here we go.
I thought this is why we played the game. FYI, I was like, okay, we're going to see a cool breeze and cut to the blinds because they be fucking over there.
Cut to, let me tell you, the darkest moment of my life.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, these two. And what he remembers is that when he was young, his father apparently killed his mother, and it's all sort of fragmented, and he doesn't really know exactly what happened, but it's the most traumatic incident in his life and set him on the course to do everything he does. You talk about, you know, how your parents died, and she's like, who's Zach? And he's like, Zach was there for me. When my parents died, it was traumatic. Zach is basically this personality that I created to help me cope as a kid. And
we haven't even addressed the fact that in all of these interviews, there's like weird Princess Bride moments where the little girl's like, keep going, Grandpa. Are you sure this just shit gets worse from here?
I forgot since they're so unimportant.
Yeah, and then she's like sitting on she's sitting on his lap. Also, that little girl looks a little bit like Emily, and I thought that was before it. I was like,
it's Emily,
this is where this is going. Nope, that's just like a weird coinkydink.
The crazy thing is that, yeah, every once in a while you'll go back to the grandfather-granddaughter story as they keep trying to frame stuff. It's only needed in the beginning and end, maybe. But the middle, when you go to it in different parts of the middle, you're like, oh, I forgot this was a thing that was happening.
Why is this happening? It's very creepy. All of the stuff with her, I didn't like that they were alone so long. I didn't like any of that.
So eventually, after searching around town and doing way too many mini quests, you are drawn to Mr. Stewart, who might be the one person to provide you with all the answers you need. And there's this huge thing we have to go through riddles and Look, unimportant.
Go get fetch quest. Go bring me this thing. Now go bring me this thing.
You eventually go back and talk with him.
All that stupid fucking driving.
It's revealed that he was around, I'm going to assume it's the 50s. I think that's what it's supposed to be.
Something like that.
He was around back then, and they were just setting up this new clock tower. They were going to have some sort of celebration of the clock tower, and he discovered that in the 50s, there was a government military experiment using these weird seeds. And so he goes up to the top of this clock tower, and it's revealed that there are military figures of some sort unleashing this weird fog, this purplish fog on the town that's based off these seeds. You see a plant, and you see like a fat dude covered up his face, but he definitely has the laugh of FK.
Right.
And then he runs away, only to find that everyone in town has lost their mind. They're all killing each other, and he succumbs to it. But he does see, before he like loses his mind, that there's a dude in a raincoat.
Yeah.
Killing people, and he's like one-shotting people with an axe.
Well, yeah, and the legend of the Raincoat Killer is not only a legend, but is real, and there was a person.
Yeah, he's like, it's not a legend, it's
actually
real.
happened.
Yeah, it's like, I was there, it happened, this legend that everyone's talking about, it really happened, this is a thing. And apparently, in the legend, if you eat a red seed and kill, you become immortal. All these cases that York has been following have led him back to this one town.
The grand conspiracy.
Right.
Like David Bowie in Firewalk with Me. Oh.
And here's the thing, is that everything about it makes sense in the end. The
Yes.
reason why your character would be the one to be brought back here, why your character would follow these clues all the way, like it all makes sense in a weird, like messed up way, but you're like, okay, I can buy into that. It makes sense to me. And right then, Thomas goes missing. And you're on the hunt to try and find your friend, returning to the only place that is associated with him besides the police station, his sister's club, bar, whatever it is, lounge. And inside, after running around through one of your mind palacy things, you eventually find the sex dungeon.
The sex dungeon. Yeah, he has to put the ice pick inside of the deer's head.
Cow, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever the fuck it is on the wall.
And it opens the door, and inside is this ridiculous sex dungeon. And so Thomas comes up and bops you over the head.
Yeah.
And it's revealed Thomas is dressed as his sister.
Yeah.
And he captures you and takes you to the clock tower?
Yes, at the top of it.
Yeah. You discover that Thomas is insane. You have a bunch of scenes with Thomas blindfolded. So you're like seeing him through the blind. I thought that was pretty neat.
I thought that was neat. And then he like starts thinking about Emily and you see the shadows of Emily and stuff.
Yeah.
All really great.
As Thomas explains to you all this stuff, he even has like one scene I thought was really, really great. He's like, I know they're coming for you. And whoever walks through this door next is going to decide your fate. And it's one of those things. Yeah, he's like, it could be me or it could be them. Who knows?
Yeah.
And
This
Thomas
is contrasted though with you fucking running around with what's his name where he just lies to you.
Yes. As Emily, you and FK are like, we gotta go save him.
And then that fucking Jet Set Radio like, booka booka ba, booka 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 ba.
Yes. And so you have this wild clock tower fight where you have to shoot him as he's spinning like, you can't get me.
Fuck that fight. That was an awful fight.
It goes on so long.
And nothing really prepares you for it. This is the first time you also get the double quick time. You have to hit like X square or like whatever. I dislike fights that aren't justified. Why did we never have something else like this to prepare me for this?
Well, needless to say, after the fight's over, Thomas falls onto a hook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Straight up falls onto a hook. And Kaysen shows up and is like, oh, damn, he looks like he's strung up like a turkey. And you're like, what is the matter with you, dude?
Go fuck you, Kasem. FK, fuck Kasem.
Yeah, you see that.
That's what that stands for.
You see that Thomas had a tattoo that says Love G again.
Yep.
And
bum bum bum.
Because there are no suspects left for the murder. When they like save you and rescue, you have this moment of like, okay, everyone that could have been a suspect is rounded up or dead. The only person left that could be doing all this is George. And Emily's like, no, not George.
Yeah.
So you, Emily, York, and Kaysen go to confront George. You go inside and find Carol, Thomas's sister, who attacks you and fills Emily's mouth with seeds.
Yeah.
And Emily's like, oh, and Carol dies? Question mark?
Question mark, I guess.
And Emily is getting all drugged up from these seeds. So you run out and you give her to Kaysen, and you're like, FK, take care of her. And he's like, okay.
He goes, you gotta come with me. You gotta come with me. And he's like, I have other things to do. He's like, all right.
So we return inside for a final showdown with George, who,
spoiler alert.
Yeah, massive spoilers, we have discovered is the killer running around this town, but he's killing people that were involved in his crazy sex cult, and he's doing it while you are attempting to solve it, like as you go on, he's pulling off the murders while you're in the room.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening,
it's
right?
It's like a David Copperfield trick. You're like, what am I supposed to be looking at? It's him the whole time.
Yeah, because if you go back, he's like, oh, I'll save you. And then he kills the one girl in the bathtub.
And then the other woman at the museum thing, he like very clearly is the fault for that reason.
So this sex cult that he's run
Has been running. This is not a new thing. It's been around.
he has a collection of gorgeous women who he just bangs in an underground part of the bar.
The hottest women in the town. This is a small town.
Which
He
is
has
why I
all of
think he
them.
was trying to get Naomi Watts.
Oh, because he wanted her to be part of the club.
And George is just like, I love her, dude. I am the only man for her. All the cultists are jealous of my love of Emily. And he's like, she was a goddess. I could have made her a goddess. And he's like, but the red seeds, they give us all powers. And he eats like 1 billion red seeds and becomes a Kuma.
Yeah, he eats them so many. Becomes like a real biker bitch, like hard leather all over.
He's just like, ugh! And then once you beat him, you wake up and Usher's like, hey, what's going on? You're like, yo, where's Emily?
Yeah, where the fuck is everybody?
Usher's like, I set up chess and I thought we could play. And you're like, what are you doing? He's like, well, you solved the murder, so everything's it's all good. And he's like, no, there's so much more. And he's like, well, Emily, she's not here right now. So you have to go chase down Emily and FK. And at this point, it's revealed to all of us who were not paying attention. Like, it's not a big secret.
Right, it's FK. That's who it's supposed to be.
FK has always been the villain, and if you've been paying any attention since the very beginning of the game.
They literally drop it off. They're like, yeah, here it is. This is the answer. And is this when the town starts going fucking nuts?
Yes.
And you see the two little boys like, help us. And then they stab you in the leg with scissors. Then we get to the fucking, one of the best scenes out of the game.
Literally insane, but also
horrific and like, oh my God.
And so you end up at the theater, and the same place they had the meeting earlier, and on the stage is Emily sitting there with a red thing draped over her and a plant in her lap. And she's naked. Well, her shirt's ripped.
Yeah.
And FK's dancing around her, and he like looks a little greasy.
Yeah,
and you're
very
like,
greasy.
Ew, what happened? Kaysen is like, I'm the one behind all this, and I've captured Emily. You gave her to me, dude.
I gave you a choice, and you chose your case.
George was basically a pawn, and Emily's all drugged up, and Kaysen like makes out with her because she's like, York, is that you? And he's like, yeah, baby, and like makes out with her.
Yeah, York is the cuckold bitch in this game. Before it was Nines, now it's this guy.
It is so wild, this scene, because then you're just like, I'll kill you. And she turns to you and she's like, oh God. She says she's been soiled. So my assumption was like, okay, she's been raped.
Oh, you're right, but it's the plant.
But it's the plant.
She's been soiled, like literally like a potted plant at Home Depot.
Yes, because it's revealed that the plant is in her stomach.
Oh, which is so...
Because here's my thought is, FK says, I grow these plants a special way.
Right, which I figured it's dead bodies or something like that.
My assumption at the beginning of the scene was that, he rapes these women, and that's how he grows. Like, it's sort of like a metaphor-y thing.
Yeah,
but that's not how...
No.
The stomach is not, like, none of that's connected.
yeah, that's not...
So I was like, maybe... Because then later she says, like, he didn't really soil me or something like that. So I wonder if the implication is that he didn't rape her, but instead he like gutted her and stuck a plant in her.
Yes.
And then like made out with her. So you see this plant and you have a flashback and you see actually the outcome of this, because what you learn is that FK was at your house and your mom had a plant inside of her.
Which is like wonderful full circle, but also like awful and terrible, which means his father was also a part of this like
this
grand conspiracy
cult.
of trying to fix this.
They were all a part of either the cult or they were part of like dealing with FK, or FK just chose them and was using them and then you got dragged back in.
Right.
But the whole point is that you can see that basically when the tree grows, it sucks up your life force and you become like a shriveled up, dried husk. And that's how it works.
Right. But this is the first time that the line of you have to kill the things you love has always been very menacing. And this time it's the first time it feels like...
You realize that it's
an apology. Like, it's like, sometimes you have to do these things.
And he's telling you, he even says, like, for the future, I couldn't do it, but you can. When the time comes, make the right decision. So he kills himself, and you pass out, and that's when you realize that you've been Zach the entire time, and York's the character you created for yourself.
Right.
And York has dark hair, and Zach has white hair.
Right.
And so the flashback to the stage, you see yourself with a huge scar and white hair.
Which I think means you were Zach the whole fucking game.
I agree. Yeah, no, you saw yourself that way, but you were Zach the entire time.
Yeah.
But you just told everyone you were York because that's how you viewed yourself.
And you also, right, and also he was holding this information like some weird dark psychic trauma, and
Right.
now it's been exercised, and now like the two parts have become whole.
Yeah, and so at this point, you are given the option, because Emily's like, shoot me, kill me. You were given the option to kill her,
Didn't kill her.
to shoot Kaysen, or to shoot yourself.
I chose to kill her. I was like, I love you. That's what Dad said to do. Dad said to kill you.
Yeah, and that's what I got as well. I think I watched a video where if you shoot yourself, literally the game ends with like you going crazy in the plant world.
Great, so you're not supposed to do that then.
And I know that if you try to shoot Kaysen, it doesn't work. Like, he's invincible.
All right, so then it's okay, good.
So what ends up happening is you point the gun at Emily, and you're like, I can't do it.
I can't do it.
I can't do it. And
Yeah.
Emily's like, fine. She rips the plant out of her and dies.
That's one of the most horrific scenes I've seen in a video game.
Like, the roots and everything,
Yeah.
horrible. And then you fight basically,
A Ghostbusters boss?
it's insane, but eventually you beat him
Yeah,
and you set everything right in the town. Everything's fine.
kind of. And then you gotta fucking drive more.
Well-
it's another fucking driving mission.
Well, what ends up happening is you go out to the kids to see the kids, and they tell you Emily is there,
Yeah.
and she's standing next to York.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, she's standing next to this guy he looks like you, but he has dark hair. So the kids saw you as that white-haired dude the entire time. He talks about Emily and how much he misses her, but then he mentions, like, you know, she wasn't really in love with me. She was in love with York. And it shows them, and they're, like, happy, and they're in this forest, and there's all the other women in red dresses, all the women who died, and then even Thomas is there.
Right.
And so, yeah, you go back, you check out, you talk to everyone in town, you have your little, like, buys, and then you get the scene with you, the
That's
old
my
man.
story. I'll
Yeah.
see you later, little girl.
And she's like,
Lunchtime.
"Wow."
It's lunchtime.
Credits.
And then that weird fucking song starts playing again.
Post-credit scene it's the diner. Well,
Oh, I forgot about
yeah,
the
the
diner.
post-credit scene is the diner, and it literally is York and Emily sitting there at the diner.
And all the other people like
They
doing their
all,
like
like-
jobs or whatever.
Yeah, they all come in, and they all are like, ah. And then the door opens, and it's old man Zach.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's the last season of Lost. is
Right.
what this is.
Yeah,
they were all waiting for him.
Yeah, he's dead now, and he's gonna join them.
Yeah.
And
But then there's a scene where, and I think this is the original post-credit scene.
okay.
Because it doesn't make sense with the old man. Because in the post-credit scene, it's like, hey, Zach, it's me, York. Look, I hope you're doing well. I didn't see like that stuff happening in your life.
I could also be convinced that all that life stuff never happened, and he's in a fucking hospital bed somewhere. Like he
Sure.
just dreamt all of this out of that shit.
But I think maybe the reason why they included the old man scene is because in that post-credit scene that is just York talking to camera, I feel like he mentions a wife. And so they added the scenes in with the granddaughter because that like explains like what happens to him eventually. But I feel like the original ends with him, York, coming back to you and being like, hey, there's another big case in
That
New
happens.
Orleans.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe that's supposed to be the setup for a sequel. But this game, you're an old man who literally dies in it. Then this scene plays.
But do you die, or do you just like almost like in Half-Life, just like, are you some sort of like fucking time warrior and you're the only one that can solve this shit?
I literally don't know anything.
That's the most
Like-
frustrating part, that there's not like a part where I'm like, okay, at least I know this is happening. I don't know what happens.
Before we started, I was about to go look up what the internet thought was the real story here, and I just didn't because I want to talk with you about it, because I truly don't know.
So it's a couple of things. They say like life isn't about the destination, it's the journey.
Sure.
So the thing he enjoyed the most about his life was being on cases. So maybe he did die, and like in his happy brain heaven, he like goes.
It was him solving the most horrific case imaginable.
Right. That's where he finds his joy, because everyone
But
else.
that's not his joy. That's York's joy.
But they're one and the same person.
York
So-
is Sherlock Holmes, and Zach is.
So what if
Watson.
York is the eternal detective fighter of these like evils in the world, and we the players, York has come to us and pulled us
Because
into
we're
another.
his Zach.
Right.
I accept that completely. I like the idea that he is out there like, hey, if you have any of a crime solved.
Yeah. Would you recommend this game to people? Would you say play this game?
I would always say play this game. It is a game that I think you should include. That's why it's on the show. You should include it in your repertoire of games you have played just so you can base, like, it's not terrible.
You're right.
It's not a good game, but it's not terrible. What it is a game that will take you to places that you as a gamer have never been.
Definitely play the director's cut of this game. Do not play the original version.
There's no reason to. The director's cut is everywhere.
Yeah.
The original's from like 2010, I think.
It's awful.
It's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
Director's cut's the way to go.
$20 on the PS3. Go get it.
Yeah. You see that, Santel?
See what?
FK in the coffee.
Ugh.
It never fails.
Jeez Louise. Right at the beginning, you should have already known, but we had to go on a big, long adventure to figure all that out.
It's great! What a great setup. There's so many things that point exactly to who the killer is. It is a well-crafted game. You have to admit that.
I do admit that there are some very nice, well-crafted moments. I have more questions, though.
This game is the missing link between old Lynchian movies and TV shows and the true crime stuff of today.
If this is the missing link, then just like the beginning of Jurassic Park, shoot her. Shoot her now and get rid of her. She shouldn't exist. You're an abomination to her. It's an abomination. Get this shit out of here.
Shoot! Yeah, that was Muldoon.
Yeah.
He dies in the movie but lives in the book.
Does he really? Mm-hmm. I wish I could read.
The answer's always in the coffee.
God damn it, Jesse! I need real answers!
Those are the real answers. You just can't handle them.
I enjoy so many things about this game. I will tell you, all 18 hours of playing it is a fucking struggle.
It may be weird, but I think that's the point.
I agree. I think that is the point.
That's right. Keep drinking.
Don't
stop. Keep drinking. You'll understand it in a minute.
It's bad. I need.
No, you're still.
I don't want to. It's too much. It's only 10:30.
Thank you to everyone for watching the show.
Ugh.
We'll be back with another episode soon. But more importantly, everyone's name who you see before you. They're the real heroes. They're the ones that keep the show going. They're the ones that force us to drink at 10:30 in the morning.
Thank you. That we appreciate.
We do appreciate that. They are the patrons, and without their love and support, this show and all the other shows on this channel would not exist. Santel and I would not get to sit here and be goofs.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The internet's a crazy place right now, and if you would like to have the artists that you enjoy in your life, go support them all. I mean, support us first, and then trickle
get
down.
to them.
Yeah, trickle down to
Trickle
everybody
down,
else.
yeah. It's work for government. It should be fine.
It should be fine, you guys.
Where's the payoff? Bring the strippers and booze! We do occasionally talk about video games. Bring the strippers and booze! Not enough time for video games. Bring the strippers and booze!
Oh, thank God, I don't need pants now.
Hey, JC! What are you doing? Not much. Making a fortune.
Yeah, now sing music.
Bring the strippers and booze!
Now I'm here to ask and answer one simple question.
You got